Capping off a week of groveling sycophants clawing their way into Trump's good graces, Republican Congressman Andy Ogles has taken the cake, having just introduced an amendment to the Constitution to allow Donald Trump to run for a third term in office. The resolution that he introduced would amend the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution, which currently limits presidents to just 2 terms. Now, a few points here. Yes, this is nakedly unconstitutional. No, there is not enough support right now to amend the Constitution, for which you need a 2/3 majority vote in both the House of Representatives and the Senate, and then ratification by 3/4 of the states. But most importantly, none of that means that Republicans won't still try. Remember, presidential immunity isn't in the Constitution either, and guess what? Republicans, with help from their judges on the Supreme Court, created it out of whole cloth to help Donald Trump. Also, barring insurrectionists from running for federal office again is in the Constitution, and yet again, with the help from their judges on the court, they eliminated that provision entirely, again in deference to Donald Trump. We give Republicans the benefit of the doubt at our own peril. And look, this isn't even a new idea among Republicans. For quite a while now, Trump himself has been hinting at the idea of staying in office for as long as he wants. Here he is back in 2019 at a closed-door event boasting about how he can run for a third term if he wants to.
We've got it really rocking. We're looking good. We're looking good for another 4 years, and then we got to And what I'm saying is I have a certain group of reporters that say we're looking good for another 4 years, and then if we want to, another 4, maybe another 5. And they go crazy. Just watch out, Bill Maher. He goes and looks at somebody like that. He goes, you know he's going to win, don't you? To some idiot that he's interviewing. He says, you know he's going to win. No, I think you know he's going to win. And you know he's not leaving, don't you? And the guy's going, what do you mean? He's not leaving. He's not leaving after. And I thought he was kidding. He's being serious. So, did anybody ever see the Time magazine where we have it? 2020, 2024, 2028, 2032. In other words, we do that to drive them frickin' crazy.
Now, of course, he's trying to frame this suggestion as a joke, but as we all know by now, so many things that start out as so-called jokes from Donald Trump are actually his way of telling us exactly how he feels. Remember in 2020 when Trump tweeted, "Big protest in D.C. on January 6th, be there, will be wild"? And instead of the media treating his threats to democracy with the urgency and seriousness that they deserved, we got headlines like this claiming that despite his bluster, Trump was going to concede gracefully. Yeah, remember how that worked out? If he's willing to do that and then turn around and pardon the very people who violently beat police officers and smeared shit on the walls of the Capitol, then very clearly nothing is sacrosanct. And anybody who is still trying to sane-wash the words and actions of Trump and his Republican allies has their head in the sand. And I should also note, we saw this coming. Just days after the 2024 election, Congressman Daniel Goldman introduced a resolution to reaffirm Congress's support for the 22nd Amendment, which again limits the presidents to 2 terms. The resolution was designed to get Republicans on the record to support the 22nd Amendment because it was so utterly predictable that Republicans were going to attempt to do something like Andy Ogles is doing right now. And yet, what has Mike Johnson done? Well, he refused to even let it go for a vote. I asked Congressman Daniel Goldman for his response to Andy Ogles' resolution, and he said, quote, "By now, Donald Trump's pattern is predictable. Joke about something unconstitutional or authoritarian, normalize the joke, allow sycophantic Republicans to adopt the joke as a serious idea until it becomes MAGA orthodoxy. Representative Ogles has followed the playbook perfectly by proposing a constitutional amendment to allow Trump to serve a third term. While I'm grateful that he acknowledges that a third term would require a constitutional amendment, nothing Donald Trump says or does is funny." The reality is that right now we have someone in the Oval Office who is actively taking every measure to give himself more power, more money, and to hurt those who oppose him. I want to be clear, he is not going to be inhibited by norms or precedent. He will take whatever he wants and never let it go. And what he wants is power. And if you think that he's not going to exploit every loophole in pursuit of that, then you've been asleep at the wheel for the better part of a decade. Which, by the way, is a point that John Heilman made here.
What Trump has learned over time is that, like, norms schmorms. If it's not a law, like, what are you telling me? Democracy depends on norms? What's a norm? A norm is something, some precedent, some values-based thing. Like, what happens if I break it? Nothing? Okay. Let's just break. Let's just knock him down.
The one thing about Donald Trump, and I've said it before, the words that will not pass from his lips are, well, we could do it, but it would be wrong.
Right.
That is not in his range of thought.
Or we could do it, but or we shouldn't do it because that's just not how it's done.
Right. I mean, his thing is you do whatever you can to get whatever you want. And the only thing you can do that's wrong is not doing the thing that's in your self-interest.
Right. And wait for someone to stop me. Like, hey, someone wants to try to stop me, is his basic approach.
Which is dangerous. It's dangerous for the country. It's a dangerous impulse in a president. It's dangerous for the country, dangerous for the world.
So yes, I take this amendment from Andy Ogles very seriously, and you should too. Because even if the goal of the resolution is to own the libs, or even if the goal of the resolution is for Ogles to just suck up to the God King and get some points that way, it will nonetheless have the effect of normalizing us to the idea of Donald Trump staying in office past a second term, as if it's something that reasonable people can just disagree on. And that strategy is basically the essence of Trump's actions in his first few days in office so far. He's basically engaged in a blitzkrieg of extremist actions taken right from Project 2025, designed to make you numb to what they were trying to remake America into. He withdrew the U.S. from the Paris Climate Agreement, making the U.S. the only country besides Iran, Libya, and Yemen not to be in this accord. He withdrew the U.S. from the World Health Organization. He unconstitutionally tried to end birthright citizenship, which is a bedrock American principle. He rescinded executive orders issued by President Biden to lower prescription drug costs. He pardoned violent January 6 criminal insurrectionists, and he's now considering inviting them to the White House. He revoked the Equal Employment Opportunity Executive Order of 1965, which prohibited employment discrimination in federal hiring based on race, religion, and gender, essentially rolling back 60 years of progress on civil rights. He's ordered health agencies to stop warning Americans about bird flu and to halt publication of scientific reports as egg prices are skyrocketing. I could go on and on, but the point here is clear. They are trying to do as much as humanly possible to fatigue the American public with regard to their extreme and authoritarian policies. Our job is not to let them succeed, because this is not normal and it will not be normalized. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.